Hey, everybody. Thank you for showing up on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, July 5th. And my next guest and I were just talking about the tumultuous, crazy Baghdad-seeming chaos and the fireworks that happened last night. So we'll touch on that. But first, I want to talk about my beautiful sponsor, 5-Star Guitars. They've been with me from the beginning of All Access Live, and I appreciate that they have been very cognizant of what's happening right now with the quarantine. So they are open. You can go in and schedule lessons, and you can get repairs done on your guitars. You can do some purchases. They've got sanitation stations and they've done a lot of their due diligence in making sure that you're safe and secure. But in the event that you want to just go ahead and buy some guitars online, you can go to www.5starguitars.com and make sure that Joff Metz knows that I sent you. 5-Star will appreciate it. They're a fantastic store right here in Beaverton, Oregon. All right. So before I get started, I just wanted to say my next guest is not only beautiful on the outside, and she's sought after by adoring music, TV and movie fans, but she's also one of the kindest people I think I've met in the entertainment industry. So you guys are going to be privy to the inside scoop on the heart that is part of Amanda WYSS. So Amanda, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to chat with you. It's
It's
good to see you again after our meeting in the Dominican.
yeah. I don't know. Had you been approached about doing the one in Mexico this upcoming October?
Yes, and I was actually so excited for that one, and the lineup looked like so much fun. And I know it hasn't been canceled yet. I, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just thought because that flight to the Dominican was a killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing there, but I was like, oh, this is just such a short hop. It's going to be so much fun. And then I was like, wah, wah, I don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. What do you think about it? Are you thinking of?
I'm hopeful that it doesn't get canceled. It's a special event for me because it overlaps my 50th birthday, and so I found out that I think that Cheap Trick and Billy Idol are playing right around the same date as my birthday, and I thought, what better place to spend a birthday than
Yep,
with Amanda Wiss and
yep.
downtown Julie Brown and Cheap Trick and Billy Idol. So I
It's going to be so much fun if it happens, and to celebrate your birthday.
yeah, well, I hope we can. I hope it'll happen. I had Steve Robinson on a couple of weeks ago, and we talked a little bit about their preparation. And as long as people are taking care of themselves,
Yeah,
wearing their mask and staying away from each other, hopefully the world can kind of return back to some life. I
yeah.
you know, I try to keep things real light and and positive spirit here. But you and I both were just discussing this and it maybe I cut you off when you were talking about it, but our industry is affected
Yeah.
most prominently. I mean, it's one of the last things that's going to return as this pandemic sort of winds down. So maybe we talk a little bit about how it's affected you, because you not only you're acting but you also do a lot of fan events too, right? So you do conventions, and so did you have a lot of stuff scheduled that unfortunately is gone a wayside?
Yeah. I try to do around 5 conventions a year. 6 counting 80s in the sand now because that's really so much fun. Um, but I knew as soon as this started, I knew that I didn't want to get on an airplane. And I mean, not to be alarmist, I was just like, I just don't want to. And
Yeah.
so I was going to back out even if people were going to go ahead with things, because I just thought we all just need to behave super responsibly in the short term so that we can, I mean, that flatten the curve is just so overused, but whatever it is we need to do to, be able to get a grip on this
Yeah.
virus so I was not going to go anyway. I just thought that we need to behave responsibly and short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. But yes, and I it was disappointing to say, oh, not to go to Ireland and not to go to some really fun places that I had, and selfishly that I was looking forward to. But
Do you
for the
with international travel, because it's funny. I mean, you're known widely for the horror industry, but there's so many 80s movies that are seminal, sort of they're movies that changed everybody's lives when we were growing up as teenagers. And I told you I wanted to kind of avoid the questions that you get every time somebody talks to you about them. So I'm not going to give you quotes and from Better Off Dead. Although
all
I,
the other.
that movie to me was like one of the greatest movies of that whole generation. And I I think a lot of people are with me that your character, of course, was yeah, I was like 15, I think, when the movie came out, and skiing in Montana. I grew up in Montana, and so I wasn't skiing the K-12, but I was, but I was way into that. So and every boy could relate to the John Cusack character that got sort of snubbed by Beth, and
by the mean girl, or the
yeah,
she was a climber. She
yeah.
just kept looking for, I don't know, bigger, better, more, different.
Did
You
you?
know what? I have to say the script for Better Off Dead is still the funniest script I've ever read. And I mean, the movie, as funny as it is, the script was, I mean, I was crying. I was laughing so hard. And just the lines people quote from Better Off Dead. I mean, it's got to be one of the most quotable
Big
movies. It
time.
just must be.
The kid, of course, the newspaper kid. He's not a kid anymore, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
I was thinking the $2 quote.
Yeah.
He's got to be getting some kind of royalties from that, right? Every time somebody in a
Wouldn't that be great? I doubt it.
yeah,
Um, because Better Off Dead isn't, you can't find it anywhere. We don't really get residuals from that movie because it's not being sold in markets. I mean, I don't know if you've never, it is rarely, if ever, on a demand or TV,
right.
HBO or Showtime or it's just, whoever takes their packets of movies to Cannes to sell them in the market. Better Off Dead is apparently not in them. And I don't know if it's because it's been sold from, one studio to the next and it's just, but they're definitely missing out on a market of people that would love to see it.
Every person in this generation wants to share their kids. My kids have all seen it, but I know other cast members are at a lot of these events too. So you've had Diane Franklin at these things, and so she gets to do her Monique, because
She wears her hat and
she
the
does,
glasses. Yeah,
and she's got the jacket.
it's adorable.
It's a cute thing that they book you together often.
Yeah.
Does that happen for most places that you guys get stuck together?
It does. And the fun thing about Better Off Dead and Nightmare on Elm Street is that we all stayed friends, which doesn't always happen. And so because of my birthday parties through the years, those two groups sort of cross-pollinated in some ways. And but so it's fun to, and I love Curtis Armstrong with
Oh yeah.
oh my God, he's just the best. And Diane is hilarious and such a big heart. And so we go to a lot of and she's also done some horror films, so we'll even be at horror conventions. And the funny thing is then everybody comes up for Better Off Dead, so it's
Of
kind of funny.
course.
We're like, all right, sounds good.
Tell me about your birthday parties thing. What's that all about?
Oh, well, no, it just like through the years when I was younger, and I would have every year some sort of birthday party, often a bowling thing. I don't know, I'm a terrible bowler, but that always just seemed like a fun birthday party to have. And so because I was so young when I did those two movies, they were like my college friends, really, so I would just have them over for my birthday. And then, so it was just, then all of a sudden it was like this Nightmare on Elm Street, Better Off Dead hybrid of people that all know each other now. So.
When is your birthday? You got to tell me.
Oh, when is it? Mine is in November. So I'm thinking we can, like last year when we were in the Dominican, we got there like the day, because my birthday is November 24th, and we got there right at like a day or two after my birthday. So this year it'll be before my birthday.
Yeah, we can share our birthdays together if we do it.
Okay.
First, if some miraculous thing happens and we get a vaccine for the virus, then we'll celebrate birthdays. Although you don't look a day over 27, so
oh my gosh, no, this is a big one coming up, and that's fine. You know what? I've embraced the fact that it's hard as a woman. I think I want to look young and all these things that happen. I don't, probably because of the industry I'm in. Um, but what I'm really embracing, and it's kind of just this last year, is that I just am what I am.
Yeah.
And that I'm kind of, even as an actress, moving out of the, oh, I have to have her kind of roles into the handsome looking senator, the grandma, or that things. And I really want to embrace that, and not, I've never had any surgery or anything. I just, want to embrace that. And it's hard. Like, so I look in the mirror and I'm just like, I'm getting weathered, and I go, but you know what? It is what it is. And I don't want to, I really, really, the older I get, want to be authentic.
Yeah.
I
No,
want to show up as myself.
you can see that not only in your roles, but when I see you at these events. And I remember having dinner there in the DR, and you had Curtis and Diane all at the same table. And I remember doing kind of a Facebook Live thing where we just started chatting, not about the movies and about the entertainment industry, but it was really fun to have a real sit down conversation about life. And um, I missed the last year. I had life stuff going on as well. And one of the things I look forward to the most is getting to talk to people in the music industry and entertainment world, about things that are less superficial. It's nice to know about their families. And the year that we sat down and had dinner, I remember Mike Reno and his wife offering to have my son and I come up for Thanksgiving, or for Christmas, actually, right after that, because we sat and talked about our families, and I just love that kind of stuff, and I mean, as much fun as it is for me to be on stage, and I'm sure for you to be acting and have your movie come out, but to get connected to the cast. You said that you and your cast members all stayed connected after like Nightmare and Better Off Dead. Um, there is something really special about having a connection with people that way. Do you sort of frequently catch up with those people as friends and find out what they're doing in the pandemic, and see how they're coping with work being a little slow right now?
Gosh. Yes, I've been trying to, and I need to be better at it. I think two things. Stephen, who I live with, he was like, you're the queen of quarantine. And what we realized was, I'm sort of a loner in a lot of ways. So my life is not overly altered, except for lack of work.
Well, yeah.
Uh, and so obviously, and so I realized, like, oh, I need to try harder to reach out to people, because it isn't everybody else's experience. And it doesn't mean I don't have days where I'm like, oh my God, get me out of this apartment. And we did just recently got an Airbnb that was all super, they had Clorox wipes everywhere and in Palm Springs, and went and isolated in a different place for 3 days. And it was such a great change of scenery. But I need to reach out to Curtis and Diane and Heather, and I did just talk to Robert England, and I have talked to Heather, and Diane and I have text Curtis's wife. But I need to do more of that. I'm not as good a friend as I can
Well,
grow in that department.
you know, the thing is, people that aren't part of the industry, they live their lives a lot of times through social media. So when you look at somebody's experience on social media, I notice people in the creative arts are really struggling right now because they don't have their outlet, and it's kind of expected that they're going to be solid through it, even if you're an isolationist by nature. uh, Being able to connect. I don't know your craft well enough to know that if you thrive on having that energy where you can go in and read, and even if you're just doing auditions, if that's something that you sort of thrive on. But I think all those things are sort of, they're locked down right now, right? Are you getting any calls?
No, I mean, I did a Zoom reading for charity, and it was so nice to be creative for a few minutes, but it was awkward, and I just don't know
Yeah.
how it works. Although I think people are trying to figure out how to make Zoom movies and stuff. But I think, yeah, like our industry, yours too. I mean, our industry in the arts, which I think a lot of people think that we're all millionaires and that life is easy and great. And I think that the truth is the majority of the entertainment world, be it music, Broadway, movies, TV, whatever, the majority of people are middle class and living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
They just really are. And, I think maybe the top, if I'm being super generous, 5%, but it's probably much less.
Yeah.
And our industry is decimated right now. I mean, it is decimated. They can't even figure out how to bring people back to work. I know there's a couple TV series that are going to start at the end of July up in Canada. They'll see how it goes. People are in quarantine. They're trying to think of ways to do that here in LA, but the numbers are just going up so
Right.
exponentially here in LA that I don't even think the industry qualifies to try to open up. I mean, I'm not quite sure how that works, but and I think they want actors to sign waivers that they won't hold anybody responsible if they get sick. And there's just things that are like, it just so like dark ages. And then I was just reading about, don't touch your face. Don't do it. I just did.
Grab a wipe, quick.
Grab a wipe. I know. I'm trapped outside my sound booth and I can't really move anywhere. Is that also when things do go back, the middle class, or the sort of known supporting players, which is, my area, we're going to be wiped out because they're going to use smaller casts. They're going to get as big a names as possible. And I just feel like it's just right now, today, I think it looks really bleak. I'm an optimist, and I know that somewhere down the road, this boat's going to right itself. But I feel like I wish I had a better plan B because I don't really have a plan B.
I was going to ask, what have you done outside of acting over your lifetime that you feel like could be a contingency plan? Well, so you talked about, before we got on, you were doing some voiceover, some book, and some audiobooks.
Audiobooks and things like that, which are great in voiceover when people ask, but I'm not really in that tight circle of like the ones that are like, I'm not the first call. I'm
Sure.
a little down the list, but I'm super grateful when people call, and I love doing it. And like I said, behind me, Steve built me a really cool, we call it the sound yurt.
Nice.
It looks like a yurt.
It does. Well, it looks earthy. I like this.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous backdrop.
Yeah.
Nice job, Steve.
Yeah, he did well.
Bonus points.
But yeah, like, I don't know. Like, it's actually, Stephen and I were talking about this. We're like, wow, what's our plan B? And I mean, I don't know. Like, first of all, I don't really like to drive, so I can't even drive for Uber. I was like in the bot, if it got really bad, I was like, I don't even think I could drive for Uber. But I am an amazing typist, so I suppose I could be a receptionist or something.
Well, okay.
I'm just thinking, like, if I really had to go and try to pound the pavement, I do have mad skills as a typist.
Okay. So you like to type. Do you work on scripts and do you write books?
No, I read them.
Well, if you, I would imagine you have enough stories in you that putting together an Amanda WYSS doc would be a bio pick for screenplay eventually would be a really cool read.
People have asked me to write something, and just kind of in my voice, whether it's just, but I haven't yet. I wonder if I'm like lazy or afraid, or because things like you're saying, like writing or really pursuing, writing a script, or even pursuing directing, which is something that I would really like to do. I haven't put all my energy behind it to manifest something from that.
Sure.
And I'm not sure why, if it's fear, resistance, a lack of confidence, or not wanting to fail at it, or any of those things that can block us.
Sure.
I haven't examined it really, but now that you brought that up, I'm like, Yeah, I'm not writing, and I could be doing that. I could be.
Well, everybody could be doing more. Just I think we have an opportunity right now. This is kind of a neat opportunity, really. We have to pivot and figure out other ways, right? So, Plan B, Plan C, and maybe find ways that you can find fulfillment. Because sounds like you don't like driving. Even if you could drive and Uber was not your thing, because you don't want to be miserable, but you got to do what you can do to put food on the table, right? So, I um, I think it's a really interesting time right now. For me, I didn't plan on having any of these interview type shows. It was really meant to just catch up with people that have been impactful and inspiring to me. And it's been cathartic and really fulfilling because I miss personal connection. I'm a hugger. And I really, when I'm on stage, as soon as I'm off stage with the band, all the bands we collect as family, and they're like family reunions. And when we're at these shows in the Dominican Republic or wherever, I love to get to know people that are there as fans of the music because I am too.
Yeah.
And so this, as much as, it's nice to be able to look at your smiling face and talk to you about real life stuff. I miss personal touch and hugging and I think it's going to be a while for that.
Yeah.
So I try to find ways in order to engage. You mentioned jumping to Palm Springs for a few days just to quarantine and isolate somewhere else. And my son and I did that too in Montana last week. And we drove out and hiked out to these waterfalls. And it was so nice and a recharge, and even if you're wearing masks and you're, isolated out there, it is good to get a change of scenery. I don't know how people do it in LA. It's right now. I told you my older son drove down to LA a few days ago, and he expected to go to the beaches, and hang out and see all these friends. And 4th of July parties were all canceled. And he said, well, the beaches in San Diego were open, but I heard the traffic to get there is
Yeah.
not good. Everybody heard about the beaches in San Diego.
Yeah.
So
one of my neighbors went to San Diego for the weekend or for 4th of July and said that the beaches were packed and no one had on masks. So
God,
it's good he didn't go.
yeah.
Because it's just, we're just going to be doing this forever if people don't. And I have to say, where I live, 50% of the people are not wearing masks. And I just find it so disheartening because we're just going to be doing this forever until, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the answer is. But yeah, so I'm glad he didn't go to San Diego to the beaches because they were anti-masking.
It's a weird thing, isn't it, to see the masks versus the anti-masks and have that be such a thing. I'm a believer in science, and so when I hear Dr. Fauci, who spent his entire life as a virologist and studying this kind of stuff, I pretty much take direction from somebody like that versus speculation or somebody's nephew who said, oh, you know what, I studied biology and I read on Facebook that wearing a mask doesn't work. Well, and I don't watch the news. Yeah, I felt like that was one of the ways for me, not because I want to put my head in the sand and not be educated, but I started noticing that the news was less and less informative and more divisive. And so I can get important news from other ways, but
Yeah, you can read, your news. And I wanted
yeah.
to go back to something you said earlier, because I wanted to ask you a question. When we met in the Dominican, so many great things about you. The reason you're so inquisitive and you're interested and you don't try, you're not always out like, look at me, I'm interesting. You're super interested in others, which by and large makes you interesting and charming and all those wonderful,
Thank you.
charismatic. And, but you were so interested that that connection people get with you is authentic and meaningful because you see people, you make the person you're speaking to feel seen and heard. And it's like such a gift. And I think, especially in the arts, because, it's a lot of like, la da 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 da,
Right.
that people are like, look at me. And that's okay. That's great. That we forget to ask each other questions or, So when you were saying, have I called my friends and stuff, like, no, I need to do more and like make
Sure.
sure that they're, instead of, like a lazy text, which I do a lot of lazy
And
text,
I do
like, how are you
too.
doing?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's weird, isn't it, that we can be out of work, but still find ways to get really busy, even if we're not get involved in our day to day work. But I really appreciate you saying that about because I'm so interested in people. I'm fascinated by people, and everybody has a story, right? Whether they are, an actor or actress or a musician or a dishwasher. And I think it's funny because I've gotten some grief from this in the music industry for being that gregarious and kind of outgoing because they didn't see it as being authentic. It kind of came off to some people like I was trying to sell myself on them, and just by being friendly. Some musicians say, there's just no way he can be that friendly and interested in somebody else. And to me, my background is in social work and sociology. I got my degree in sociology because I love the study of people. And um, what an amazing industry that we're in, right? For many reasons, because anybody that gets into acting or music or anything like that has been driven from something deep inside, right? It's this sort of spiritual journey or whatever you want to call it. And whatever like sort of led with that foot forward, that's what I love to get down and find out about. Most of the time we get to the surface and superficial stuff backstage or at dinner, and you can't really get to know somebody very well unless you spend some time with them. And in a week, I mean, that's one of the things about events like the 80s in the Sand event. It's really meant to bring people together with, so I don't even like to call them fans because truthfully, I'm such a music fan and I feel like we're
Yeah.
so connected. So, but patrons of the event and actors and musicians, everybody sort of commingle. And the people that are willing to let down their guard a little bit, it's such a gift to be able to talk to somebody and find out about what makes them tick. You talked about how you and Curtis are really close. I remember it taking about a half an hour for Curtis to let down his guard at dinner because he's so used to, oh my God, here's another booger question, right? And I can imagine. I mean, our singer for Flock of Seagulls has had so many comments about Flock of Seagulls hair and, oh wow, you don't have the hair anymore, and he's got to answer something, kind of funny, and he can laugh about it a little bit, but so I might be jaded if I were in their position, but I would hope not. I really feel like we're really blessed to have people that are even still interested in what we're doing, right? So,
God
I-
sakes, yes. I think
really,
lucky stars every day,
that
every day.
the gratitude thing is really important because that perspective is really kind of what keeps us moving, especially right now, right? Without having any certain finite date at the end of this pandemic, you've got to just be able to, and you got to lean on each other. That's why I asked about you talk to your friends because they're all going through the same exact thing, right?
Yes. And you know what? And when we do talk, and I do love that everyone pretty much, and I think we've all had days. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to ask you too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had days where you get up and you go, crap, like I just can't do this anymore. And then
Yeah.
you work through it and then you have 30 good days or whatever the thing is. But yeah, I've had a couple times where I've talked to friends and they're like, not a good day. And I'm like, you want to
Yeah.
talk about it? No. I'm like, okay. Because I get it. I was there yesterday where you just go,
I'm glad you say that. Really, I was there the last couple of days. To be honest with you, I had a great experience away for a few days in Montana, and I came back, and it's unexplainable to me. It felt like a weird manic bipolar sort of thing that happened, and I had a couple of good friends that said, hey, they reached out to say, you seem different in your responses, and just checking on me, and I'm really grateful for that. And I'm really open about saying, man, I can't explain it right now. There's nothing different today than there was yesterday, other than maybe the moon's a little different. But yesterday was a weird thing. 4th of July was a strange time. And you mentioned LA just being a war zone, and Portland here too. I, I saw somebody, a friend of mine, posting, the hillside, which looked like Malibu when everything was on fire last year. It's what the
Yeah.
hillside looked like out here yesterday because people were lighting off the incredible illegal fireworks. And I thought, that's about all we need, right? We've got this
The
virus
fire.
that's
Yeah.
decimating, and then yeah, now the community gets burned up from fire. I just
Yeah.
yeah, so it was a weird time to see. I saw a lot of people shopping that were less tolerant and patient with each other, and they're forced to wear a mask when they go inside now. So those the people that are the opposition that are like, I have to wear
Yeah.
a mask, and you're violating my rights. And yeah, I try not to be too divisive, even in my conversation about that. But that stuff seems preposterous to me, right? Because it just common decency is really important to me. I want some
Well, the
civility.
thing that I find shocking about the mask thing, and I tend to, I do, because I'm still evolving and I can be pretty divisive sometimes, and especially politically. And and I'm getting a thicker skin because people, people can say some really mean things to me. Like if I post something I believe in and they're like, shit, oh my God, they just say the worst things. But I'm learning how to block people. I'm like, I'm not even going to respond to this. Every now and then I just respond and say, have a blessed day.
Yeah.
Have a blessed day. But the mask thing, the thing that I find so crazy is it's science. It's
Right.
proven science, and you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for
Right.
other people. So by saying, "Oh yeah, we've talked about it, and we're not wearing masks," I don't even think you understand what you're saying about yourself. You're not. Nothing's going to happen to you because we're all wearing masks. You're the bad person in this scenario. And
Admitting their selfishness for sure.
yes, and you know what? And I know there's people I anti-maskers, and I just, you know, I don't know. I've been saying people are confusing their inconvenience with oppression. And that said, I posted something about wearing a mask, and somebody wrote something like, "Don't be a sheep. They're it's first a mask, next a burqa, um, and by the way, why don't you just go act? We don't want to hear your opinions." And I was like, want to go, I would love to be acting right now, but because you're not wearing a mask, my industry is not going to open that much further down the road because we're all just spreading
Right.
germs and
Yeah.
viruses. And I'm like, and that's not scientific. I don't know, but I mean, I'm just like, we're going to be doing this for so much longer than we need to.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my tirade.
No, I appreciate the tirade. Yesterday, I hopped on social media a little bit just to look at people's, 4th of July plans, and I was encouraged by John Bon Jovi jumping on, saying, "Get out there, be safe, wear a mask, have fun." Very short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah.
And he's a spokesperson for a pretty wide generation, and I thought that's all that needed to be said, and I would think he didn't worry too much about damaging, half of his
Yeah.
audience by his, reputation. And, we need more people in influential spots to be able to say, you know what, don't listen to me, listen to science, and then go on with it. But you're right too, that you can't have real discussions on social media anymore and help to have any real conversation and outcome, a positive outcome, because people, their guard goes up, they're ready to brawl and attack. And if you have
And
a
it's
different,
totally worse, I think, since we've all been locked up. And, I think so many people, their only interaction is on social media. And I just think I think it's easy to get really angry right now and
yeah,
frustrated. And I think everyone's is afraid, whether they admit it or not, because everyone's livelihood is at stake. I mean, even medical workers are being laid off because, hospitals aren't doing as many elective surgeries, so they're having to cut staff. And so, I mean, there's really no jobs that are secure, I think, right now. So I think a lot of people are afraid, and I think politically everybody's just so polarized. And I think it's just the thing, the denouncing education and science is just something I just can't tolerate.
yeah,
I don't understand the denouncing of educated discourse and science.
You would
I don't
hope,
understand it.
as a democracy and as a scientific based country, right? You would think that we'd have a lot more science driving decisions being made. And yeah, the unhappiness that you see with people right now is
Yeah.
something that really bothers me. I think,
Yeah. You
uh,
feel it, right? I mean, I feel it. We're breathing it in, and it's like our a society is only as strong as the weakest amongst them.
sure.
When you look around like LA, it's just there's so many homeless
Oh
people,
my
and now we're just having people that are falling through the cracks financially,
God. Mm.
and their industry, our industry, I mean, is being just decimated. And um I just think there's so much suffering, and I don't know. I think that it makes it some days like where I just feel like it hurts to breathe. Like you just go, oh, there's just I'm there. Like in the to put it in Star Wars terms, there's a ripple in the force. Like and
Yeah.
the force is filled with. I just think we're all just hurting so badly right now. I try
You're
to think about that when people say mean things to me, that they're just hurting too.
Yeah, that's good that you can.
Oh,
Sometimes people have a really hard time, recognizing that, whether they cut you off in the road or flip you off or whatever, or just say toxic things, people hide behind, their computer screen. And so the anonymity behind social media and, the web is also frustrating because that's where they're taking out their angst on anybody, any willing participant.
yeah.
But I love the fact that you talk about it being sort of a spirited thing, like you're a disturbance in the forest or a ripple in the forest, because really we have this collective, sort of conscience that we share. And, you know, I think one of the things that seems to help me is when I talk to other people, not just like-minded people, but to, talk to people about what they're doing to have like a ritual in their day, to sort of refocus. And some people have yoga or meditation or something like that. Do you have anything that you start off in a day that helps you sort of besides coffee?
I know I did start drinking coffee during I'd quit years ago, but I was like, screw it. I'm out of
Yeah.
coffee. But I do. You know what? This quarantine has done one thing. It got me completely back into my yoga practice, which I had done for many years religiously, like literally. I mean, I was born and raised Catholic. Um, I'm not a great Catholic, but I'm not a Catholic. I don't go to church every Sunday or anything anymore. But anyway, I've been doing yoga every day and I love it. And the first thing I do in the morning when I wake up is just find one thing I go, I have to say something I'm grateful for, and it can be my pillow. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I do love my pillow. So there's that. And then I have a thing called the Daily Word that's put out by Unity. I
Okay.
read that. And then there's an actor named Jeff Kober who you can sign up for his emails, and he sends them out every day, and they're Vedic. It's a little Vedic passage, and then something to work on for the day. Today I will stay present by reminding myself to breathe or whatever. And so I do those things. And then Stephen every morning brings me a cup of warm lemon water before I get out of bed. And then when I finish that, he brings me a cup of coffee. So I'm,
Oh,
I'm pretty spoiled. He's very sweet.
that is a beautiful thing. Good
Yeah.
man.
Yes. What are you? And so those are my rituals. I do yoga. And then I was reading a lot, but right now I'm in a phase where I can't, I'm I'm in kind of a little bit of a slump and I just can't focus. So I find
Yeah.
like I'll read the same page over and over, but I was reading a million books. Okay, what about you? What are
Hey,
your
it's
I'm
funny, but
grabbing water, which is down here.
no
Hold
problem. You bet.
I'm
The,
back. Okay.
the reading thing is funny because I am so ADD that I'll read 5 books at the same time, and I've not been able to get through full books at all. Uh, like I have a great friend and client that I interviewed a couple weeks ago here on All Access. She wrote this book called Me, Myself, and I, and it was about this transformation, changing, like rediscovering your identity at sort of a midlife phase.
Yeah.
And it's a phenomenal story, but her story is so relevant to everybody going on going through this phase right now in our age area and in our industry especially, right? You've got to figure out how to shift. And
Yeah.
so I was grateful to have finished that book. That's the one book that I finished recently. I've got a gratitude journal that I have from our. You met Janine Self to do some makeup work down at the Dominican. Janine gave me this gratitude journal, and she is very similar to you in that her sort of ritualistic things to just keep your spirit focused and positive. She's that way, and it's inspiring. And so, the gratitude journal and just having a few things that I can focus on in the positive sense, and then something I can discard as another thing in this journal, something I can let go of. And letting go is a huge part of my growth right now, So I wanted to focus on less chaos in my life. It wasn't really a New Year's resolution, but I felt like last year was tumultuous and chaotic, and there were beautiful things that happened. But as a process, I wanted to be able to let go of a few things. And so every day I kind of focus on that, whether it be not being so involved in my kids' lives that I have to try to control and helicopter parent, or try to change somebody or something and force somebody to wear a mask or whatever, So um, those have been really helpful to me. And I think for the most part, 95% of the time, I feel more present and centered, even in a crazy time of pandemic. But this process in this show has been really good for me, because I ask people about the rituals. I ask them about the stuff that really matters to them, and it's inspiring all the way around. Sometimes I may disagree with what somebody might have to say, but I inform myself and I educate myself and find out strategies, because so much of what forces our life to be chaotic is perspective. If you just you cannot get your perspective right, then you're going to wallow in misery, and I was guilty of that a lot in the past. Yeah, and part of that, when you're wound down and, you don't have the proper sleep or exercise or whatever, it's more prevalent. But yoga has been something that I tried to do with an ex-girlfriend. She was a yoga instructor, and I really had a hard time. The same way that I have a hard time meditating. It's really hard for me to slow my breathing, slow my mind, but I can see how helpful it would be right now. And you said that you've been into yoga for a long time.
Yeah. And then I let the practice go, and I don't know why. I don't know. Life is so interesting how you wake up. I've woken up at times and thought, wow, I kind of didn't do, that was not, I was not living my best life that year. I mean, and it's a way of not being present. But anyway, I didn't really do my yoga for like 3 years. It's just strange. I don't know why I didn't make a decision not to do it. And I didn't even replace it with something. It was just, I don't even know. And I think everything you just said is so relevant and meaningful. And because I was thinking that I am so type A and I want to control things. And it is just that, in comparison, are just the root of all my unhappiness and anxiety and I work so hard, and I do like to meditate, and my brain is hard to shut off, but I make myself sit, even if the whole time it's monkey chatter in my brain. I do it anyway. And because I really want to be present, and I want to learn and grow, and I want to not regret that I wish I was more evolved younger, but I'm just where I'm at. And I feel like I still have the same struggles, but I wake up every day I commit to trying every day to be a better person and to learn and grow. And even though I'm up against my control stuff a lot,
Yeah.
and you really see it reflected back to you when you're in a relationship, and when you're in a relationship in quarantine, where, you're like, your significant other is just, I mean, you're just up against each other to a degree that just see yourself reflected back, and it's not all pretty. And you can I feel like my choices in these situations are, I can blame, which is kind of our childlike, unevolved knee jerk, or I can stop and think, where can I grow here? Because I love this person. So and so I do think, like, if we're open to it, this has been a really, like, fast tracked time to grow. If we're open to it, which I'm not every day. There are days where
Sure.
I'm just like, tell it to the hand, because this is tired of growing. It's not
Yeah.
happening today.
It takes a lot of work.
It does.
It,
It's hard to look at yourself and own all your faults.
yeah.
And I can only do so many at a day.
Man,
But
you
as an
sound,
actor, they're good. It's good to own all those things, because I play a lot of troubled people. So I like that I have access.
yeah.
Anyway.
Is that part of your planning for your actor? Well, first of all, let me say it's really healthy. I mean, what you talked about sounds like you've done some therapy. I mean, it sounds really therapeutic.
Yeah.
This direction. And
I have done a lot of therapy, and as Stephen will say, it's not enough. That's his response. I will be like, it's not enough. I'm like,
you know what? When it's not enough is when you stop trying to grow. I mean, that's the thing. I realize, at 50, close to 50 now, I'm realizing, wow, I'm so far from where I want to be, but that's okay too. That knowing, hey, this progress being an okay thing versus having to be perfect, and the control deal, I didn't realize what a control freak I was. But as a parent and as a husband, yeah, I was with my wife. We were 12 when we first started dating. So we went through the whole better off dead phase. I had my crush on Beth as I was dating my girlfriend, wife then. We divorced a couple of years ago, but we are closer now. I think we've been in the last 10 or so years. A lot of that had to do with some of that growth and personal therapy and realizing, that we just kind of grew apart like a lot of people do. But I have so much more respect for relationship and people. And so you guys in quarantine, I can imagine that everything is, you really have to focus on respect and patience and tolerance, even loving each other and really caring about each other. You mentioned a couple of the ritualistic things that Stephen does for you in the morning. Those little tiny affectionate things are really special, that if he was a selfish dude, he wouldn't put the studio behind you there and wouldn't, I,
well,
yeah,
my sound yurt,
yeah,
my recording yurt.
we should all have a Stephen in our lives, so to speak, but I'm glad that you do. And I think it's really because you are on a pedestal for a lot of people. I noticed when I started looking at some of your back catalog, your IMDb, and realizing, wow, you were in so many things that I've seen before that I just may have overlooked before I got to know you, and
Thank you.
but it's great that people follow you, that they really do. I know we talked a little bit before the interview or the conversation, that people will come up to you with all these really detailed questions because they've studied Amanda WYSS and they know your whole, like, I mean, inner workings, every role that you've read. And
I'm so humbled by that, and I know you are too. It blows my mind, and because I think innately, I think somewhere in me, I think I don't deserve it, or I mean, I'm not. I don't know, but I'm so grateful. And when people come up to me, literally 99.9% of the time, it's like the first time somebody's done it. Like, I really feel that sense of joy. And we talked about questions people ask us, in like panels at Comic Cons and stuff. And and there's a couple questions that are asked this. Wait, how do I say it? The same question is asked a lot of the time. But I always try to remember that it's the first time for that person to ask it. And it's the first time they'll hear the answer from me. And because I think there are people that will get like, I'm not going to answer that. And I just think I'm so grateful that people like watch what I do, and that at my age, and I'm not, super famous, that I still get to do what I love to do. and play diverse characters. I'm not really pigeonholed into anything. I do comedies, I do dramas, which is my favorite. And, I play such, interesting characters. People like I play, all across the map. And that's because people watch them, and I'm so grateful to them anyway.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. And you and I talked about the word fan. I just feel like that's I don't know, like about that, but that the audience, that I have an audience for, what I love to do, and that they like it. And I'm so grateful. Like it makes me want to cry.
It shows. You
They're-
really, that's endearing, and it's a beautiful thing to see. A lot of people get jaded in the industry, and maybe it's self-centered, and sort of they get condescending with fans or their audience. But you really are welcoming. I was thinking about some of these roles because you talked about liking to move into the sophisticated roles.
yeah.
And I know we're in interview mode sort of now, but I'm curious about some of these things. In 1985, Amanda Wiss life, what was your dream role then?
Well, back then, I had I was very, very into I wanted to really do any role Jessica Lange was doing.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
really into her. I just thought she was so beautiful, and she just, like when she, Frances, and these movies she did where she just uh, dug deep and shared some of the dark corners of human nature so I wanted roles like that. I wanted roles to help tell the story of the human condition. So I just really liked dramatic roles. And so like there were and I didn't get a lot of them, but I have played the more of those roles on television.
Sure.
Television has given me a lot of opportunity to stretch my wings and help tell that story. But yes, so dramas, and where you're really revealing uh, places that you can take somebody on a journey, and that they might feel something that had been afraid to feel, or look at something that was difficult to look at, but maybe they understood it a little bit better after they saw it. That even if they're a dark story, that they leave the world a little bit better for that
Okay.
information being out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Okay, well, rather than conceptual, then, if there was a real role for a film, was there one film in particular that you thought, that's, if I had that role
Yeah.
as, atop my resume, that's the piece I would be glad to go to my grave with?
Oh my gosh.
Back then, and I'm asking about Amanda Wiss then, because I was going to fast forward to modern day
Okay.
and
So
see how
I
to.
gave you such a long-winded answer, and it wasn't even the right question. Okay, wait.
No,
So
it was good. It was exactly what I'm looking for.
okay, so this is kind of what you're asking, but I was up for the Meg Ryan role in Top Gun. And
Oh,
I wanted that role so badly because this is kind of what you're asking, but for many reasons, I just thought that story was so great, and it was telling these stories of, when we're up against our ego, and how we deal with loss, and all told within this very palatable story. And I wanted that role so desperately because I just felt like it would, I think it would have given me a different career.
maybe
Um,
so. Yeah.
but yeah, like back then I wanted that role, and I wanted, there was quite a few movies in that era that I screen tested for that I did not get.
Yeah.
That so there were many more that I tested for that I didn't get. But I have to say, in 1980, I'll say 1985, I will go to my grave happy that in that year I was in Silverado.
Oh, that's a,
Because I
yeah.
think that's one of the best westerns ever made.
Absolutely.
So I sort of danced around your question, but those are my answers.
No, those are perfect answers. All right. So, Silverado, great mark in time, really great screen in, mark in history. And, even the fact that you screen tested for Top Gun it's a really cool piece. Chances are that you may have then replaced my teen crush at that point for Meg. Um, And do you know Meg? Have you talked to her?
No, I don't know. I mean, I've met her before, and she's lovely, and she's so talented, and it's her karma to have that amazing career. And she was perfect in Top Gun.
She
I mean,
did
she
well.
was perfect. She was and is luminous, and she brought something to that role that was magical, and and she it was exactly what it was supposed to be. But I did want that one.
I
I
get
wanted
it.
it badly.
If you got to screen test something that came out, say last year, is there something that has come out in the last year or two in the 20s that you think, oh, you know
Okay.
what?
Um, there was a Julianne Moore movie that came out 2 years ago, called oh my God, Being Alice,
Oh yeah.
where she played the woman. I don't want to do too spoiler alert, but dealing with some stuff. I I I wanted to be. When I saw that movie, I was like, this is the role I want. This
Okay.
this is it. This. I just thought that was amazing. And then Laura Linney on Ozark. I want that
Oh,
role. So
I
those
could
are my
totally see you.
yeah.
I
It's
could see you at that
That's
character.
my wheelhouse. That is totally my. And so I was like, so those were two of the current ones where when I saw them, I was just like, oh God, it would just be like Christmas every day
Yeah.
to
Well,
get to do that.
most people I know, actually, I was into Ozark from the beginning when it came out. One of the few series that I thought, okay, Breaking Bad, long gone. Better Call Saul is not happening for a bit. Loved the dialogue and the writing in that. And then when Ozark came out, it was a perfect replacement for that dark, brooding, intense. But Laura Linney's a good character, for
Oh yeah.
sure. You love to hate her, and they're trying to do right for their families. But
And I love there's just such a lack of vanity. I love roles that have a lack of vanity, that where um it's not about how the people look. I mean,
right,
it's just, and because I just think as an actor, it completely frees you to more open, more truthful, more authentic, because you're not worried about this
yeah.
or these, which I don't have, so I don't have to worry about those. I'm flat chested. I'm built like a ice skater,
Oh,
so
no,
a gymnast or something. But I think, and we talked about this before we started talking on air, was that and I think that part of the thing, like about Ozark, or is it called Being Alice? Why is my mind gone blank? I love that movie. But anyway, the, it's that, you know, I want to be okay with aging and letting this all be what it is, so that that is not my concern. Like that I have to be anyway. And those roles really allow for it. You don't have to be skinny. You don't have to be this thing that I see a lot of women, because society puts it on. It's not, I'm not indicting anybody. It just, there's just so much pressure to stay looking young,
right,
which is just, first of all, it's futile,
yeah.
because
No,
you might make it for a while, but then you just look weirdly old and youngish, and it just doesn't even make sense. And so, like, as an actress, I really want those roles,
yeah,
where I can have gray hair. My wrinkles are good for it.
yeah.
And, that, I don't know, like and I've never been the big boobed girl that was like the big, like
The Pamela
the,
Anderson type.
yeah, or
Well,
like the actresses that, like, everything was about their beauty. I think
right.
I've always been an attractive character actress, and I think I'm super grateful for that, because I have a certain amount of freedom that isn't based on how I look.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, not
And I
limiting. You definitely capture that. And uh, I love the actresses that you mentioned being influential for you that way. The Julianne Moore movie, Still Alice, right? Is that?
Still Alice,
Yeah.
that's oh,
Yeah. She is one of those people that has, they say aged gracefully, but what's been really, I think the appropriate thing is that, she's often strong woman, beautiful natural woman who not afraid to take risks,
yeah.
and really hasn't tried to hide the fact that she's playing an older person in different roles, right? So,
Yeah.
like this phase changed, I think, in about 10 years ago, where Charlize Theron, who came in and did all these movies that it was all about her beauty, and then she took risks with,
Yeah.
right? She completely transformed in some of these roles where she gained a whole bunch of weight and played a really
Yeah.
just I'm trying to think of the movie that she was this serial killing prostitute,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And
Monster? No.
yeah, that was it,
I
Monster,
think
right? Yeah, and just really intense and dark, but at the same time very real. And it didn't have to be Baywatch, right?
no.
It there's some dignity to that, and
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I'm
I
glad
agree.
that had been a focus for you. I
Yeah.
I think one thing I noticed in this conversation is that there was a hiccup between our conversation at the Zoom link and Facebook, so it hung up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to archive it and put it
Okay.
on YouTube, but so it'll still be out there. We just don't get all the live comments from people, and I know a lot of people were excited, but this was almost cooler to have just you and me.
Yeah.
um, a couple of people that you've worked with in the past, and I talked to somebody that just, man, I felt it when we were in the Dominican. I really liked this guy's spirit, and I did one of the first conversations I had on my show, Robert Romanus, when we had him on, and I just I came away from my conversation with him feeling like I want to be that guy's buddy forever. I
Yeah.
really liked who he was as a human being, not just as an actor, not as a musician. He's got his band there in LA, but we had more commonality than all that. He is a really solid, good human being who, like you, is conscientious and cares about people and people's spirit. And I pinch myself every day that I get to meet people like you guys. I'm so grateful. You,
I feel the same way about meeting you. That's so
uh,
fun. Well, thank you. I mean, I feel honored to be on that list, and I love Robert too. He's just so calm and in his body, and
mm,
he's grounded and real, and he's not trying to be anything but what he is.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
there's it's so comforting and interesting, and
I love that. I talked about this friend of mine that wrote this book. She too has this podcast called Identity Talk and Identity Shift, where your identities sort of have to evolve over time. She interviewed Robert right after my conversation with him because she said this really relates. His role shift really relates to what she's doing. He's typecast as Damone. I mean, that most people know him as the ticket scalper who, was sleazy, kind of slimy dude, from the movie, and how it affected his ability to sort of move on and still get roles and still do things. When an actor or actress gets typecast in a movie, it's got to be really tough, right, to break out of that.
yeah.
That
I mean, on one hand, it's because you did such a good job that like in Robert's case, and there's things that it's also that if he just had the opportunity for something else as big,
right,
that would
yeah,
have made the conversation at least about two different things. So, like how Sean Penn, because he could have been typecast as Spicoli forever, but he had all these other things that he dove into. Do you know what I mean?
did he do something after? I'm just joking, sorry.
No,
No,
I
pretty
mean, you haven't ever heard of him, but
Yeah, somebody said he did a couple of things.
he did a
You know
couple.
what? You're right. And part of that is, I mean, it's not the fault of the actor, right? A lot
Yeah,
of it is just that maybe a casting agent just didn't see them
yeah.
in a particular
He just
role.
didn't get that next big thing to broaden the story.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I mean, you've been at this a long time. You've actually been acting for since you were really young. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, since I was 11. I mean,
11.
11 in theater and
Uh-huh.
commercials, and then um, 18 with television and film.
Okay. Do you feel, because you mentioned confidence earlier, that as it maybe that I'm not interested in writing scripts because I'm not confident about it, but you probably have so much knowledge about so many parts of putting together a production, whether it be a TV show or a film. Could you, soup to nuts, put something together where you could cast it, you could write it, you could direct it? Do you feel pretty solid about that?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, when you put it that way, yes, I do. And especially if I had someone with me, because I realize I'm not like a solo act in that way.
Okay.
I think if I had somebody that was like, you could, I don't mean even like doing the work with me, but that was just like right here going, yep, you got that. Okay, check, you're not alone, but go do your thing. Yes, because I could have the idea, I could write the script, need to not be like super lazy, and obviously cast it. I love actors and I do want to be a director. The editing stuff somebody else would have to do. I am
Sure.
way not techie. That is where the post-production is where I would all fall apart.
Sure. Yeah.
But up
But
till that point.
I love that though, that if you felt like you had one person as a sort of a production assistant, somebody there that, I'm happy to be that guy, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Good
I
deal.
have nothing else going on right now, but I might be able to edit too. But now I think it's refreshing to see somebody that has done such a wide span of stuff. I mean, you've done it all. You've done.
Well, and I
I
wish I'd done more. I mean, it's funny because when I look at my career, I'm so grateful. I've had so many great things, but I think of all like the years where I hardly worked at all and not getting the role. I mean, like it's hard not to just go, oh, I want so much more. And it's
Yeah,
not that I'm not grateful for what I have. I just, I want to be back on a TV series. I love doing a TV series, going to work every day and having this arc that you get to play over 9 months, and you grow and you learn, and there's a family. And so like that's been super disappointing, like for like the last 15 years. I'm like, put me back on a TV series, come on.
do you have an
So
agent that works your sort of you like that looks for opportunities for you and says, hey, Amanda, I've got this great opportunity, and happens to be a film, again, not a TV series, but do you have somebody kind of working that angle for you?
I do. I have my agent. I've had her for a long time, and I think she does. Yeah, she works. I know she works very hard for me, but I think, you know, I don't know what it is. I think, is it just karma? Is it just this is my life path to not feel all the way fulfilled because there's so many more things that I want to do, or is it because I'm not seeing it clearly enough? Like, because part of me thinks we create the life we want to live.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm super grateful for my life, and I don't want it to sound like I'm not, but that said, I mean, I want to be doing better roles in bigger films, and I want to be in something that's, I don't want all my biggest work to be from the 80s.
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
I've worked too hard, and it just, that things haven't landed as a grown up, and I have to say, it kind of hurts my heart. It makes me
sure.
feel bad.
Well, you've still got all those tools, and more so for sure. And so it's a matter, like I said, of, not seeing Robert in the right casting opportunity. And for you, if your agent's out there working and she knows that your focus really would be, hey, land me a Laura Linney role in Ozark, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Especially
Oh,
now with the streaming services out there, on Amazon and Hulu and Netflix kind of having opportunities for dramatic series. That would be really cool to see. I can imagine you there for sure. And, I think about the process when something like that goes on. Let's just sort of pretend we'll put Amanda into Laura Linney's role, right? So
yeah.
you're Marty Bird's wife, running the illegal cartel casino. Uh, when something like that comes out, and you'll have to educate me, and pardon my ignorance. When a series like that is developed, do you feel like a series is written a season at a time, where the the writer will come and say, hey, here's the arc of the series this season, and do you read that entire season as an actor or an actress in the as your role, and sort of have that in mind as the end goal, that it's going to end up here? Or do you go season or episode by episode? I know that sounds like a really amateur
No,
question.
it's first. I mean, it's always been my experience that the writers, you get the pilot script and maybe the first episode script, and then they're written as they go along, but they have the Bible. They've got all the storylines have been broken down, and they'll give you pertinent information. And sometimes on a TV series, if there is going to be a big character shift, they don't tell the actor right away, because you also don't want the actor playing the end
Right.
in the beginning, because you see that in movies sometimes, and I've noticed it's a trap that I've seen actors fall into, and I'm sure I've done it too. I'm certainly in a glass house. But because you know that something's going to happen at the end, you'll tend to play. It's like and Stephen always says it's playing the end of the scene from the first sentence.
Mm.
And you look for it. You'll see it sometimes, and you're like, oh, they're taking this information that they need to forget right now. And so I think I've never been a part of a series where you had access to scripts all the way through. They're usually writing them as you go along, but you have an idea where your character's going, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes something that's happening between actors can help maybe inform some things that will happen down the road. But usually in the writer's room, God bless them, they work so hard, and they're, and during quarantine, they've all been in the virtual writer's room. I think a lot of people on these shows, and they, breaking down scripts and then writing scripts and then rewriting scripts and having them approved by the studio, having them approved by the network. I mean, they go through such rigmarole just to get the script into the actor's hands. But I think that you're usually given an idea of who you are and possibly where you're going to go. And then, but anyway, just to say again, one of my favorite things is catching actors playing the end from the
you spot
why
it.
are you doing that? Yeah. I'm like, I caught you.
Man, does it ruin shows for you sometimes?
No, you know what? I'm such a good audience. I am who people make TV and movies for. I completely get lost in the magic. There's people I know that see booms come into shots and stuff. I never see that stuff. I don't care whether the actors are good or bad. If I like the story, and that's relative anyway. Just because I think somebody's a bad actor doesn't. I'm sure people think I'm a horrible actor, so it's all good. But no, I just love being swept away. And speaking of that, I just watched Hamilton on Disney Plus.
Oh, right. Just yesterday it came out. Okay.
So I was sobbing. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet. Nope. And actually tickets for it on Broadway didn't get to go 2 years ago, year and a half ago. Yeah.
That's a break.
Yeah, that's all right. It'll be back around.
Watch it on Disney Plus. I'm telling you.
Really? Okay.
This is the original cast. And I don't know anything about it. I'm sure the other people that played in it were great too.
Yeah.
It's so good. And it's because usually when things are hyped that much, you're like, yeah, whatever.
Right. It's hard to live up.
Yeah, it lived up to it.
God, that's so good.
I highly recommend it. And I just think you as a musician are going to lose your mind.
It's very rare that I've seen something that had that type of writing and that type of cast that has left me disappointed. Honestly, I've only caught a couple of things on Broadway. When we tour, we try to get a day off here and there, and so I'll use that time as vacation time, and we'll go down and I had a funny story with one of our guitarists that played with. I was with Animotion at that point, right? You remember them? Obsession.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah.
I was playing with them that night that you saw me there. That's right. It's an interesting thing because I was playing with a flock of seagulls, and I had left Animotion prior to that, but still kept that one gig. So I played with the Animotion and New Shoes that night that you saw me there in the Dominican. Anyway, went to the House of Blue Leaves, and Ben Stiller was the main, and it was hard to see wonderful film and TV actors on stage for me, because I automatically put them in roles that I've seen them before, and I thought I want to be a good audience, but it's tough for me to be able to disconnect, and even if it's a great script, if it's really well written, it's good. But it's like me watching even rock biographical pics, the movies, so the Queen documentary that came out this last year and won, the Academy Award, and
Yeah.
it was really well done. But I cannot see him as Freddie Mercury. There's only one Freddie Mercury, so unless I'm watching a documentary on Queen, and it was really a great movie. It was fun and entertaining, But I watched it with my kids, saying, "Oh, this is really great to show how magnificent this band was and how how inspiring they were." And I think it was more enjoyable for my kids because they liked the music, and it was but I'm not an actor, and I still kind of get ruined by TV
Yeah.
and movies because I expect too much, I think, but
I can see that, and I think it's just I think Steven doesn't get swept away by stuff. He's the whole time he's just like, he gets things catch his eye, or the story's not working for him or stuff. And he'll just look at me, he's like, I don't understand how you like this. And I'm like, no, it's just kind of, I just want to see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, does he starts to see plot holes and starts to turn it off, and yeah.
And I think like I was going to say about those biopics, I think it's hard because they're from our lifetime, and
Right.
those people, I mean, Queen and the Elton John one as well. I mean, they were such a huge part of my teenage years.
Yeah.
I mean, just like obsessively, both of them.
Yep.
But it was just, I mean, I thought that both the actors did a great job.
They did.
But it wasn't, it to me, I was like, I don't know. I just I like the real thing. So it was, hard. It was hard because I was like, oh, I'm too close to this too. But it was interesting to find out this stuff, or even if any of it's true, or I don't even know. But
yeah, it sounds like quite a bit of it was, I mean, especially, for the Queen piece, but, and they're both, somewhat tragic and, but at real life, the music is great all the way around. Incredible to see Mark Martel singing these parts of Freddie Mercury and supplementing the movie with that. That guy, I played, in so many tribute act things as well. And to see this guy that has this Queen tribute that is so authentic, and that guy is, you would think he might be Freddie's, long lost son. I mean, the way his inflections are, even his movement, and he's an actor, really. I mean, really, as a tribute artist to Freddie Mercury, he's truly an actor. Just happens to be a comedic or a musical theater actor. But
when I was in high school, or no, it was after high school, we used to go, I grew up at the beach, Manhattan Beach, and we used to go to Redondo Beach to the Red Onion and dance on the weekends to the Rolling Clones.
Oh my God, a Rolling Stones tribute?
Yes, and it was amazing. And I mean, or I remember it as being amazing, but it was always so much fun. And I loved that we were dancing in the Red Onion Bar, which, did they have Red Onions where you grew up? It was like a chain restaurant that...
I was supposed to play the Red Onion in Newport Beach, July 24th, and they canceled it 2 days ago. Yeah, Flock was supposed to be down there. Yeah. And
my gosh, because I have to say, I don't know if the Red Onion's still in Redondo Beach because I haven't been down there in a while, but it's literally, when I think about that time, I just get the biggest smile, because we would just go, you just knew you were going to sweat for like 2 hours and dance to the Rolling Clones.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, life was a lot easier then, wasn't it? But I can picture a teenage Amanda Wyss with her. Did you have crimped hair? And
no, I've always just had frizzy hair.
Okay.
I had hair down to my waist, and it was just this blonde.
Yeah.
Explosion.
Never permed it? It didn't have to? Just
never permed it. In fact, I've spent my whole life like flat ironing it to get like the Peggy Lipton hair.
Oh yeah.
Like the Mod Squad. I always wanted just flat blonde hair.
You always want what you don't have, right? I did the perm mullet. Not proud of that one. Yeah, there's a lot of incriminating photos out there of me, but
Okay, well, first of all, the 80s made us all do really bad things.
Yeah. And I still get a pass. I get to live that forever, doing stupid stuff like this, But
I like your hair.
I miss it being purple. I just can't get my stylist right now. So
you do it yourself.
Yeah, I've got the dye, but I want to bleach it all the way out and really do it right.
I haven't done my hair. Oh
Yeah.
wait, she what? What were you gonna say?
Oh, she does. Sometimes she'll do a pink, black, purple sort of ensemble. I get kind of a starburst,
Yeah,
thing, whatever.
that'll be nice.
While I still have any hair at all, I'm trying to just go nuts with it.
Why not?
My two boys are bright redhead, and so I had pretty normal looking hair for the longest time. But as they grew up, they were frustrated as gingers, and I said, "Oh man, it's good to be different." So then I started going really crazy with the colors,
Yeah.
and I have two different colored eyes too, and so I told them that I'm part husky.
Oh, I
Yeah,
do remember that. I remember that. I forgot until you said that.
most people that first notice, they say, "Did you know that you have different colored eyes?" And no, but I told the kids, I said, "You'll appreciate that," because that's stuff that I got grief when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Beth would have given me shit for it back in the
Beth
day,
was
but
Beth was very shallow.
yeah. But as you get older, it's great to be able to have our differences, and
Yeah.
so those
You
are
know,
my part of
my
my.
little sister's a redhead, and I know it was hard growing up at the beach where everybody was tan and blonde, and she's super fair skinned and, and gorgeous.
Yeah,
She's drop dead gorgeous. I mean, obviously, once she got to a certain age, she was super appreciative, and she grew into it. And so are they making peace with being gingers? I love redheads.
I do
That's
too.
totally my jam.
Yeah. So my older son is a hip hop artist now. And so a ginger with a beard in LA is going to be a new look, right, for this burgeoning
Yeah,
artist. My
he
younger,
needs to wear sunblock. He needs to
yeah,
wear a lot of sunblock.
he's down there, but since he can't get to any beach, and he's not as fair skinned as my younger son, who's 18, and we were in Montana on wave runners, and that poor kid came home red striped. He just
Oh,
and he had 50 sunblock and it just wasn't enough,
yeah.
but he's an old soul. This kid is 18, grew up loving the Beatles. And I didn't raise him on the Beatles. I raised him on hard rock stuff, and he just became so smitten that we played in Liverpool and we were in London, and he went and he knew everything about all these obscure things about the Beatles that I didn't know. And we went to all their homes and everything. And it's really sweet to watch this kid grow up as such a fan of classic rock music. I asked him, with my kids a lot, I'll say, if you had an hour to spend with anybody on the planet, who would it be? Just for an hour. And my youngest is George Harrison. He wanted to spend an hour with George Harrison. I thought, what other 18-year-old kid would ever say something like that? It's I was like,
Phenomenal.
but yeah, if you could spend an hour with somebody, sit down besides me,
God, you know what?
besides me.
Which I'm so grateful I got to do. Um, God, there's so many people. I mean, part of me thinks it would be somebody from history.
Right.
I mean, but it would be so easy to say something. I mean, like, there's just, oh gosh, I just feel like I'm gonna hate whatever I say because it'll sound dumb. But I'm, oh my gosh,
And
like,
it can change tomorrow. That's the thing.
yeah,
Because
that's the thing. Like, I think like if it was like a musician, um, possibly like Elvis Presley,
wow. Right on.
just because that would just be like, what was he really like? Or like
Right.
to talk to him for an hour
Yeah.
would be pretty cool.
You would
I
want probably earlier phase Elvis Presley. Yeah. You
really
don't.
black leather jacket,
Yeah.
not pre jumpsuit Presley.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, I like it. What about you?
Musician Prince would have been the
Oh
guy. And but like I said, I told you before we did the conversations that I love podcasts, and Mark Maron's podcast, if you listen to his stuff.
Steven listens to it. I haven't listened to it. Sorry,
Okay.
but Steven
No.
listens to
So yeah, Stephen will appreciate this.
it.
Mark, the premise behind his whole series, right, was that he was a comic that just didn't quite make it, and he was a cranky curmudgeon, right, because other friends of his, the Louis C.K.'s of the world, and the Robin Williams, and all these famous comics blew up, and so he started doing a podcast as a last ditch effort to just sort of get out his angst, and then he started talking to comedians. Billy Crystal was one of his first guests, and Robin Williams was one of his first guests. So as time went on, he would do 2 podcasts a week for the last 12 years now. So he's got thousands, and the podcasts got out of the comedian element and more into actors and musicians, and some of those were so fascinating that I could get lost in those, in the just
Right.
casual conversation. But Barack Obama got a hold of his podcast and said, "Hey, I want to come do your show." And so Mark does those in his garage. At that point, he was in Pasadena, and he lived in this little suburb, in Pasadena. And so Secret Service came in. It was during Obama's second term, and scoped everything out. They had Secret Service agents on the ceilings or the roofs on all the houses. And Barack Obama came in and said, "Garage is looking good, man." And he had a presidential cup, that he had coffee on, and he left it there in Mark Maron's garage. And it was exactly what I was talking about. It was completely comfortable, casual. There was nothing sort of contrived. It was, Obama liked the fact that Maron wasn't trying to dig dirt out of anybody. He asked great questions, but I love that there was so much in Barack Obama wanting to know about how Mark got this together. I
Right.
loved the fact that he wasn't, "Hey, I'm president, I do this." It was just very sincere and very dignified. And I thought, I would love to just have conversations with people like that, you know? And
Yes.
so this was never my aspiration to be hosting a podcast or a show. I love the real conversations. And I could tell from the first time I met you that you had that in you. And I am so grateful that it holds true that a couple years later, the Amanda West that I got to meet is even that much more just wonderfully decent. You are a wonderful human being. I adore you. And so I'm glad
I
that
look at you. I adore you. So
I'm great and grateful that Stephen has been able to share this pandemic with you. I'm glad that you guys have each other in there, and you've got your sound hut or your sound yurt.
my sound yurt, my recording yurt.
What is the book that you're doing voiceover for right now?
Well, I can't say the title
Oh,
because I had to sign an NDA, but it's a young adult horror series,
sweet.
and it's really good. It's
Oh,
really good. So I think people are going to enjoy immensely. I think, or young adults or adults too. I enjoyed the books.
well,
I was,
we're young adults.
yeah.
We don't have to act old. Yeah.
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 So yeah, so it's fun. And then I was doing a voice for this cartoon that's it's an animated series that they're trying to get Netflix to pick up. So they asked if I would play the home ec teacher. So
That's
it was totally fun. So I got to play the voice of this um not very nice home ec teacher. She's basically Beth grown up.
oh
Um,
no.
yeah, so she's you know, uh, anyway, so that was really fun to do. So I got to do that and one other voiceover thing. So
When you get those kind of gigs, so they're pitching it to Netflix, they're trying to get the animated series picked up on Netflix.
yeah,
They just shoot a pilot.
we shot a pilot and like I think 2 episodes. Because I kind of just got lists of lines, like this overall
Sure.
storyline of what's going on, but I think it was 2 episodes. Sorry, this
Okay.
was the beginning of quarantine, which by the way feels like 15 years ago.
I
So
know.
I'm like, I don't remember because 3 months in quarantine is like 5,000 years. So
It
I feel like
feels like it. I know.
time,
Yeah.
time is just so um, confusing right now.
Yeah. No, and I couldn't tell you what day it is most times. I have to look at my little clock just above
Yeah.
but the only reason I ask, I would think that an animated series like that is a little bit different than a standard episode of a TV series that, um, there are so many moving parts in the dialogue,
Yeah.
especially if you're in a booth reading your parts. It's not like you're reading back and forth, with other people in the
Yeah.
dialogue.
It's very interesting because especially all my training in drama school and everything as most actors I think do, it's not acting, it's reacting. So it's really I know who my character is and I know where I need to go, but it's reacting to what the other person says. It informs how my line is,
Right.
what my intention's going to be, and so that was new. That
I,
was new and interesting to be like in my sound yurt trying
yeah.
to Actually, the pilot of that was pre-Sound Yurt, and I was literally sitting on the floor of my closet with, it was hilarious. It's clothes like up to here with my headphones on, and I was like so uncomfortable, and I was like, this is so unglamorous and difficult. I'm not
Did you take
enjoying
a picture of it?
I did take a picture. No, I didn't, but I have pictures of me in the Sound Yurt, in the recording yurt. But so Steve one day came in and he was like, yeah, that's not gonna work for
Good for him.
yeah. So he gave him something to do too, because I do think, like, I noticed Steve does all of our foraging. I have some conditions that make me, wouldn't be good if I got the coronavirus. So he does all of our foraging, and so he makes him, I think, he gets to go out and hunt the woolly mammoth and find the golden fleece and come home with toilet paper and Lysol wipes and things that make me super happy. So I'm like,
good man. I need a Steven in my life. Like,
yeah, we all need a Steven. He's pretty awesome.
You want to rent him out?
I should rent him out if he'd let me.
Yeah.
That'll be our side hustle. I'll rent Steven out.
Oh, was that him in the alarm?
No, but
he was whistling
right out front.
Yeah, somebody's carrying him away in an ambulance. They're gonna snag him.
I know he's probably outside the bedroom door listening, going, "You're gonna what me out?" I'm like, "What's our new side hustle? You're gonna rent him out to go forage for people and take care of them for a couple of days."
That's a good thing, man. Rent. Yeah, just rent it's sort of like an Uber,
Yeah.
But concierge service with Steven.
Yes.
If you need, like somebody out here, some philanthropist that'll be watching this thing on YouTube will actually say, "Hey, Amanda, I want to help, finance that." So
I want to finance you renting out Steven.
I love it. I would love to meet him someday. It sounds like he's a really good, solid dude.
Well, if we can all go to Mexico, you'll meet him.
I look forward to that.
And if that's not going to happen this year, then we'll all have to agree to meet the following year or before then.
Yeah, absolutely.
After this thing, when it's safe, we should just, like, the next time you're in Los Angeles or whatever, you're meeting.
My plans are that we still, even though the Red Onion was canceled, we're supposed to be a drive-in concert happening on July 25th. Has not yet been canceled, but our singer's in Liverpool. I don't know they can get here. And Catalina Island is supposed to still happen for an 80s thing as well.
Wait, when's that?
That September, about Labor Day weekend, September 6th, I think. So that seems awfully soon, to be able to have an event like that. It's at the beach club there in Catalina and Avalon. So
I haven't been to Catalina since senior ditch day in high school.
Really? I love it there.
How sad is that?
I love it.
Catalina. In fact, I was just looking at pictures and I was thinking, we should get an Airbnb in Catalina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
hope that happens for you in September, but only if it's safe. Like, I don't want to have it crazy. I
think getting over there on the little boats is probably the most sketch sort of experience, because they're small, and you're packed together. But I hope it happens if it's safe. It's just so I can get to see you and meet Steven. So I will. I'll make sure that I stay in touch anyway, even if we don't do more.
Because now you have my information. So.
Love it. I'm so glad that we got some time together, and I'm really grateful that you've got such a really solid heart and head on your shoulders. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That makes me feel really good, and I hope to live up to those nice words that you and right back at you, by the way.
Thank you. I'll have it up on an All Access page, and I'll send you the link, and then everybody can weigh in. And it's too bad that the live thing didn't happen here. That was a snafu, but
I think everything happens for a reason.
I agree, and I was grateful to get to share it with just you and I. So
me too.
Thank you, Stephen, for sharing you for me with
I will, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a beautiful week.
Thank you too, and stay safe and stay healthy.
You too. Okay. Amanda WYSS, ladies and gentlemen, there she is, the lovely and the beautiful. All right, take care, hon.
Bye.
Okay.